Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Christian and I'm so glad that you decided to come and check out this video today. Today we are here to talk about the new album by Escape the Fate called Hate Me, which came out today, and I'm just gonna cut the bullshit and just say it. This album is awful. It is horrible. I couldn't be more disappointed with it because the last album, Ungrateful, was in my top 10 of the year it came out. There's not one bad song on that album, and there is no song on this album that tops any song on Ungrateful. It's just such a big step down from what I'm used to seeing from Escape the Fate. You may remember the album before Ungrateful was a self-titled album that nobody liked either, and this is worse than that one. This is their worst album they've ever made. There are just some awful things on this album. The guitars just sound horrible. They sound muddy and unclear, and the instrumentation is just very uninteresting and does nothing to lift the songs above a subpar level. The production on this album is rubbish. Craig Mabbitt's vocals are so heavily auto-tuned, it is almost unbearable to listen to. There are some tracks in particular where it is just so obvious that you can hardly get through the song, and I'll talk about those songs later. As a whole album, it just feels unconnected and it feels unfinished. As a metaphor, it feels like they had the album complete and it sounded great, and then they dropped it and it smashed into a million pieces, and they tried to put it back together with sticky tape, and it's not going to be the same, is it? It's just going to be disconnected and it's not going to flow, which it doesn't. It just, I don't know what they did with this album. I feel, and I know everybody's going to say this, but I feel it is the new lineup. I know it's only one new guy since Ungrateful, but it's also the main songwriter being gone, which was Monty Money. I heard he was a massive prick, but seemed like he wrote good songs, and he wrote songs that Escape the Fate needed, and now that he's gone, they're just writing shit. Like, Thrasher is an amazing guitar player. I've seen him play live, he nails it, but just because you're a good player really does not mean you can write good songs, and I think this album is a prime example. Let's talk about a few of the tracks. Let's go through some good songs on this album. There's probably only one good song on the album, and there are maybe 2 or 3 passable songs that, you know, I could listen to again, but I wouldn't go out of my way to. If it was on the radio, I'd go, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. But there's only actually one song that I'm keeping on my iPod that I will continue to listen to if it pops up, or I just feel like listening to it, and that's a song called Remember Every Scar. It is by a mile the best song on the album. It sounds like it belongs on Ungrateful. It's not as good as anything on Ungrateful, I don't think, but it does sound like it belongs on that album. It feels, everybody puts Escape the Fate in this post-hardcore genre, and this song is a very pop-punk styled song, and I love that. I would have really liked the rest of the album to be like this. It's very anthemic. It's got some great chanting vocals at the beginning and throughout the song. The chorus is brilliant. I really like the chorus, and the instrumental just supports the vocals, and the vocals are a standout feature on this song. You can hear a bit of the auto-tune on Craig's vocals, but I think that's on every song Escape the Fate has ever done. I think that's part of the tone that they go for in his voice. But it is probably the most natural sounding vocals on the album. And yeah, it's a great pop punk song. I really enjoy it, and I really wish that that standard had been held for the rest of the album. Another song that is decent, it's not great, is the album opener, Just a Memory. It starts off really cool. When I first popped the album on and it came in with those key parts, I thought, okay, I'm really looking forward to listening to the rest of this album. And then that song it was alright. yeah, so the keys piqued my interest, but the song never builds from there, and it's a decent song, but it's nothing special. It's just pretty, after the keys finish, it's pretty mediocre from there on. And one more decent song is probably Alive. It's nothing that moves me very much, but I can see people liking it. It's got a cool riff in it. The vocals are pretty cool, but it's pretty, again, mediocre. And if that's the standard for this album, then it barely even hit to mediocre. Let me just say that. So let's talk about some of the shit piles on this album. And it starts straight out of Just a Memory into, I'm going to call it my worst song on the album. Live for Today is absolute bullshit. It is one of the worst songs I've heard in the last few years, to be honest. It sounds like a Kesha song with heavy guitars rammed over the top of it, and it doesn't work. It's really, really boring to listen to, and the auto-tune on Craig's vocals is some of the worst auto-tuning I've ever heard in my life of listening to music. It is so obvious and so off-putting that I barely made it through the song. If I hadn't been reviewing the album, then I wouldn't have gone past that song. I just wouldn't have. I would have heard that song start, I would have heard the vocals come in, and I would have turned the album off and never listened to it again. But because I'm reviewing it, I pushed through and I listened to the album twice, and it's the most I'm ever going to listen to that album. I don't think I'll ever listen to any song other than Remember Every Scar ever again. But yeah, so this is just a pop song and not a good pop song. It's a bad pop song with bad guitar over the top of it, and it's a horrible start to the album. Moving on from there, it goes into Remember Every Scar out of that song, and so I thought, maybe the album will build from there, and then it goes from Remember Every Scar into Breaking Me Down, which is again probably another good-ish song on the album. It's got a good intro in the first verse, just turns it into a disappointment. So other than that, it's pretty predictable. It's a pretty generic song. The only shining light in it is probably the intro. And then that goes into Alive, which, as I said before, is an alright song, and I can see people liking it. And then it goes into another contender for the worst song on the album, which is absolutely awful, and it's called Get Up, Get Out. The opening riff is just so fucking annoying to listen to. It's just, what? Who thought that was good? Their producer should be shot in the fucking head for thinking that that was a passable riff to put on an album. And the verses are awful. It's another generic, really shitty song with some horrible, horrible vocals in it. And again, really auto-tuned to the shit. And that goes into another contender for worst song of the album, which is the title track called Hate Me. Why you would name the album after this song really, really confuses me, because you are meant to make a statement with the name of the album, and if they're making a statement with this song, they are really actually asking you to hate them, because this song makes me want to hate them really, really badly, because it is so awful. The intro is awful. The instrumental is boring. The vocals are again beyond awful, with horrible auto-tune, horrible melody, and I just can't say anything good about it. There's no redeeming quality to this song at all. It goes from that into a French titled song, which they just decided to be different for some fucking reason. It's called Les Enfants Terribles, which I think translates to the terrible ones from what I saw. And, it's average, but it's listenable. I can see people liking that song. But, just another mediocre, just generic. You can see where it's going as soon as the song starts. And then we come to the last two tracks of the album. I Won't Break is the second last track of the album. It is, again, one of the worst songs on the album. I remember when I first listened to this album, as soon as this song started, I checked what track it was, because I was praying to the gods that it was towards the end of the album, and I'm lucky that it was. It opens like a really shitty Skrillex song with some of the worst screaming parts I've ever heard put over the top of it. It reminded me a bit of an Attila bullshit song. And the vocals are, again, absolutely horrible. Then we go to the last song on the album. Thank God for that. We are listening to Let Me Be, which is an acoustic track with some band elements in there. When this song started, I thought it was going to be a good end to the album. The verses are really strong. I really enjoy the verses with the acoustic guitar and just Craig's vocals. But then it just pops into this chorus, which just brings the song down. And that's something that I'm not used to with Escape the Fate. This whole album, the choruses are the weakest part. And usually they're the strongest part in every Escape the Fate song. I just don't understand what happened with this album. It's like they just couldn't be bothered working on a chorus. They just recorded the first thing that came to their heads and thought, yeah, that'll do, fuck it, people will like it, I guess. Yeah, it's just not a strong finish to the album. I just don't understand what happened on this album. Overall, it is definitely one of my worst albums of the year. I definitely see it being on my top 10 worst albums of the year. It really showcases that even if you're a good player, it does mean you can write good songs. Vocally, Craig has really taken a step down, which is really disappointing for me because he's a really cool vocalist, and on Ungrateful, he really shined and really pushed himself. And, you know, the band is completely unnoticeable on this album. They do nothing to bring any song up from just mediocrity, and I'm just really, really disappointed, and there is absolutely nothing on this album that is the least bit interesting other than Remember Every Scar, which I described before. And yeah, their producer really needs to have a real look in the mirror and decide what he's doing, because his production job is absolutely awful on this album. The vocals sound horrible with completely overdone auto-tune. The guitars just sound muddy, and there are no good guitar tones on this album. And the drums, there are some parts in breakdowns and choruses of this album where you can absolutely hear the gating on the cymbals, and it's really, really distracting. You can just hear them getting cut off before they ring out fully. And it's just an awful production job from whoever recorded, mixed, and mastered this. I don't understand how he managed to do it. But yeah, that's all I have to say about this album. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10. I would give it a 1 out of 10, but combining some of the goodish elements on this album brought it another 1. So a 2 out of 10 from me. I'll be interested to see what you guys have to say about it. Overall, I found it really disappointing, and I don't understand how anyone will enjoy this album, but if you do, please leave your comments down below. Hit subscribe as well, and I'll see you next time. Bye.